Hello everyone. Welcome to the studio. Today we're going to be familiarizing ourselves with our hand wheels. We're going to get the basics of making cylinders and a different process for working with these hand wheels. Important thing to remember is that these are not electric wheels and you can't throw on them like you would if you are working on an electric wheel. So keep that in mind as you're working and don't get frustrated, and it'll be all good and we'll get you throwing some pots on the wheels. All right, we're here at our wheel. I've got about 1.25 pounds of clay here, about the size of an orange. Things you're gonna need for this. You're gonna need a fork. Okay, you'll need your paddle. If it's wet, try to dry it off. You don't want it wet on the surface because your clay will stick to it. You'll need a rib of some kind. This is just an old member card. And you'll need a wire and a sponge. Before you even get started, you're going to be aware you want the wheel going counterclockwise. You're going to keep your right hand on the outside of your piece. You're going to keep your left hand on the inside of the piece. When I am starting this, I'm going to pinch off just a small amount of clay like this, which is going to be the bottom of my piece. Then stick the rest of it off to the side for a second. Little tiny bit of water on the surface of your wheel, not much. This will get your piece to stick to it. Take a paddle. There you go. There's the bottom of your piece. You don't have to hit too hard. Let the paddle do the work for you. The clay, my clay is pretty soft. I like my clay to be soft, so I actually wedged a little bit of water in with it while I was using it. This is standard 103. I find that clay straight out of the bag is usually a little bit stiffer than I prefer for throwing, but as you have your reclaim, you'll be able to monitor the hardness of your clay. So after I've gotten this, I'm going to score this up. Don't be shy with scoring. If you're using a serrated rib, you got to really dig in. That's one of the reasons I prefer a fork to a serrated rib. After I've got that, just like when you're making a pinch pot, you're gonna take your thumb and you're gonna put it all the way through though. So you're gonna make a donut. Because who doesn't want a donut, right? But for real, rather than making a coil, I like having a donut because then I don't have any vertical seams on my piece. You'll find that with this coil and throw method, vertical seams will show up very easily when you're throwing it, even if you might not have seen it or if you did a thorough job scoring it. So I usually just don't use slip. I just score up. I use soft clay, and I'm going to pat it down and blend this down. The hand wheel will create a nice rhythm, so you push down and it spins just really slowly, just like this. All right. After you've gotten it down though, I'm gonna blend it on the inside like that, and then blend the outside just like this. This is the step where you're gonna be tempted to just start throwing. Try to resist that urge for now, because the more pinching you do at this stage, the less water you will use, and I think the easier time you'll have. So pinch like this, not like this, okay? I'm reaching down as far as I can to the bottom of my piece to pinch that up. And then Then I'm going to work up a little bit, pinch. If we're overanalyzing this, let's say this is the beginning of my piece. So I'm going to start pinching at this spot, and then I'm going to go all the way around at one level. When I go all the way around, when I get back to my spot, which is, where did I lost it? Oh, when I get back to my spot, I went around twice actually. It's going to be right here. Okay. Then you can move up a little bit. Now, once you feel comfortable with the evenness and the thickness of your walls, then you can start throwing. This is going to be a trial and error thing, okay? Emphasis on the error, okay? You're going to mess up, and that's okay. I want you to take your time. Remember, it's about the process. We're not worried about the end result right now. We are just throwing cylinders, so just practice. That's all I'm asking you to do. And take note of the thickness of the walls before you start pulling the walls up and throwing, because that's going to be an important thing to keep in the back of your head on your next piece, okay? Once you're here, you've got the beginning of your cylinders, then you're going to get the wheel spinning. You get a little bit of water. I don't use too much water, a little bit. And I'm going to push in and up. Start pulling the clay up. All right. Get the wheel spinning a little bit more. At this stage here, if your rim is really wobbly, you may need to trim that off. But the first thing I'm going to do before I trim anything is with my left hand like this, my right index finger like this, I'm going to press that clay down just to compress that rim. A little bit of water. Need a little bit more water on the inside. As your inside gets dry, you may need to give a little bit of water. Remember, your hands need to move proportionate to the speed of the wheel. So if the wheel is going slow, your hands need to move slow as well. So as the wheel slows down, your hands need to slow down. Now my rim is pretty wonky, so I'm going to take my wire and I'm going to hold it like this, and I'm going to just trim that extra off. Now it's nice and flat. The wheel spinning again. Press this. If this is a drinking vessel, I start thinking about the rim at this point. My left hand is like this and is compressing that rim so that it tapers down, and my right hand is not doing anything, it's just hanging out here. Maybe I want to drink a cup of coffee while I'm doing this, so yeah. Don't forget about your coffee, of course. That's the real reason we come into the studio, is so that we have an excuse to drink coffee while our hands are dirty. All right, so I've got this, got my rib. I'm gonna take my hand on the inside and I'm gonna gently clean this outside up. If the wheel slows down, you stop. I'm not pressing very hard right now, I'm just cleaning this up. Beautiful, nice and clean, love it. Now, get the wheel spinning again. Whoop, missed it. A little bit of water. If it starts going out, don't be afraid to push the clay in. Beautiful. Fix that rim. Every step, you do a pull, and you fix the rim. You do a pull, you fix the rim. Start at the bottom, work your way up. We'll go in one more time. Whoa, it slowed down real fast that time. It's because it's a little bit dry there on the inside. And I was really digging in. If your piece doesn't wrinkle every now and then, it means that you're not pulling hard enough. You want to have some wrinkles. That means that you're working. That means that your walls are getting thin. That's what you want. Right now, we are thinking about making cylinders for the sake of making cylinders, for no other reason besides just practicing. So don't worry about, oh, it's going to be too thin. Every now and then, it should collapse. If it doesn't collapse, then you're not pulling hard enough. Okay? I'm going to use my rib to scrape that extra slip off the surface. All that slip, it makes it really hard for you to lift the pieces off. So that's why I always will use my rib as the last thing to touch the surface of my clay. I also like that look. As your piece gets taller, you may find, oh, I had a little dry chunk of clay in my hands and it got on the rim. That will happen. Don't worry about it, just stop the wheel. Beautiful. You may need to use your chamois at this point to clean that rim up. Love it. All right. As your piece gets taller, you got to be careful not to bump your piece with your arm as you're using it, as you're working. So you may need to use your stick. The stick is really there for that purpose. You don't need to get it going like crazy fast. Like that's plenty fast enough. Fix that rim. I still could see that little hole that happened. And that, in fact, that was too fast. So I'm going to slow it down a little bit. I'll go back one more time. Scrape that extra junk off. Your goal for this assignment is I want you to try to make a nice smooth cylinder. Okay? As tall as you can, as thin as you can, using this process. Now, once you say, all right, this is a good cylinder, I'm ready to go, I want you to use your corner of your rib and give yourself a little undercut. Now, I'm going to cut this piece in half, but you want to do that on all your pieces. It will make your life easier when you go to glaze your work. All right, so I'm going to get the wheel spinning. Let me get all the water out of my inside. If you mess it up, which I just did, I'm going to go in there again with my hand and clean that up. What I'm doing with my inside hand, I'm moving it back and forth like that on the inside to clean up the bottom a little bit because it was a little bit ragged in there. All right, so let's clean that up one more time. Beautiful, love it. Now, in the process of doing that, I made it a little bit wider. So push it in one more time. I'm doing this real time for you guys because I feel like a lot of times with these videos, there's like cut scenes and everything. I want you to see how long it takes to do it real time. Beautiful. One last little rib there at the bottom. And I'm gonna cut the bottom one more time. Love it. Water's out of the bottom, I'm good to go. Get a little bit more there. Beautiful. Don't leave water in the bottom of your pieces, it'll cause cracks. Now, take my wire. When you know I'm done, fix my rim. I gave myself an undercut. My walls are nice and smooth. I'm going to pass my wire under there, and then I'm going to cut it in half so we can see how I did. Moment of truth. Dry hands. There we go. That's what you want. Nice thin walls, nice flat bottom. You're good to go. Keep practicing. You'll get it, I promise you. Try to make 10 pieces every time you sit down at the wheel. If you do that, you're going to be really good on the wheel. But you gotta get over that mindset of you want to keep everything. You don't need to keep everything. Right now, at this point in the semester, I want you to just practice. So take your time, make 10 pieces every time you sit down the wheel, at least 3 times a week. Okay, so that really ends up being about 30 pieces a week. Now, what do you do with your mess ups? You have your mess ups, take them like this. Make them into a little patty, like that. And I just leave it on the table like that while I'm making the rest of my pieces. And then I wedge it up at the end of my session and I don't have a bunch of reclaim. All right. So your assignment right now is to just keep practicing. Think 30 pieces a week and you'll be golden before we start our drinking vessels, which will be in a couple weeks. All right. Talk to you soon.